And the finalists are...
We recognise those individuals. I got the envelope.
And the winner is...
And the winner is...
And the winner. And the winner is...
And the Esports award goes to...
Let's go to Fortnite.
We're at the tippity top of the mountain, but we're really only halfway up.
Hello and welcome to the third Esports Award Spotlight Show of the 2020 campaign. I'm Gabriella La Tigress Devia Allen, and I am back. Just about a month ago, FDOT and I had a wonderful time unveiling the Community Award finalists to you all. And since then, you have voted in the millions. That's right, the millions when it comes to the Community Awards. Now, tonight marks the first show of our doubleheader with unveiling the industry finalists taking place in tonight's show. And then tomorrow we'll be doing the same for the Creative Awards. A little later on in this show, you're going to be finding out who's up for the coveted awards, including Esports Game of the Year, Esports Publisher of the Year, Esports Journalist of the Year, and so much more. To help me doing so, I will have two special guests, one that might look a little familiar to you. But before we get to that, I have some very special business to take care of that I have prepped for, I have stretched out. I hope you're ready. Let's roll the intro.
Shine like gold. Shine like gold. Shine like gold.
Coming up on tonight's show, we announced the finalists for the Industry Awards 2020. 2019 Double Esports Award winner Booga stops by to chat. And the first Lifetime Achievement in Esports Award inductee is announced. I'm honored to have not just one, but two esports veterans joining me for this spotlight show. We have the return of Tom F. Battinger, but we are also joined for the first time by Adam Lawler Thornton.
What a great way to be introduced. Appreciate the love, you guys.
Welcome to the show, dude.
Appreciate it, man.
Well, for anybody, I know FDOT got to introduce himself last time. Lawler, this is your first time on the show. For anyone that might be from different scenes, care to share a bit of your experience in esports? I mean, what you been doing to pass the time here in quarantine?
Yeah, that last one's a little bit harder to answer, but the initial start for me to esports was in early 2016, where I got introduced into the Rocket League esports scene. And I've been doing that essentially for the past roughly four and a half years. And then over the last probably year and a half, I've also dabbled in a lot of the BR genre with PUBG, Fortnite, as well as Apex Legends most recently. So trying to expand my horizons. And then during quarantine, as unfun it hasn't been, I've been organizing more tournaments on my own, working alongside stuff like ESPN Esports, who have been an absolute blast to work with. So trying to stay busy like the rest of y'all. It's not the easiest thing to do, but I feel like we're all pretty well prepared for it, being gamers, I guess. It's kind of what we do, stay inside, right?
A little bit. Fun fact, actually, last year was my first year in the Rocket League scene. I was hosting the Rival Series, and these days RLCS is like all open. It's kind of nuts, but I actually watched Lawler streams to learn what it is that I had to talk about, actually.
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry.
I watched your stuff to learn Rocket League, man. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I appreciate it.
After that, I believe that you've been jumping back into that more recently, right? Since the last time that we got to speak here on the Spotlight Show. How has the season been going for you?
Yeah, Rocket League. So, I mean, Rocket League made a lot of changes. It used to just be, a league tune in. Now there's open tournaments, there's regional squads, there's like a whole different tournament. There's a lot of Rocket League going on. So I'm doing all that. I recently got a chance to jump into PUBG Mobile, which is, we were talking about mobile games and how big they were, and I still wasn't prepared for just how big it is. And I'm still rocking the Valorant stuff every week, growing and doing some cool things with Giant Slayer over there. So, still just swimming all around esports.
Yeah, it was so great getting to reveal some of those awards last time. You mentioned Mobile Game of the Year. Lawler, as somebody who has been in the industry for a while, I'm sure there's a lot of names you noticed for Streamer of the Year, Content Creator of the Year, Personality of the Year. Is there anyone from those lists that you are vying for in particular?
There's just so many good options nowadays. And I think that's the best part about this industry in general, is that now it's becoming more accessible and more welcomed. It's really hard to pick a specific one. I mean, obviously you can point at people like Tim the Tatman. Guys have been doing it for a really long time, but ultimately there's just so much talent out there that how do you pick one? Like, there's so many good options. So I'm glad that I am only one vote out of the millions that we've been seeing, because how people are actually going to decide it, I have no idea. It's awesome to see the love that is happening. And now that we're in our how manyth year that they've been doing this, it's just unbelievable to see the growth that we're seeing, not only from the fan base and trying to support their creators, but just the creators themselves. They've really been put on that next level of platform status, I think.
Yeah, and doing a lot with just the advancement of the industry so far. We're seeing all of these different awards expand. F-Dot, I know he was just talking about the fact that you kind of have the solace in being only one vote and only having to worry about that. But do you feel any pressure when trying to create your tier list of who you're putting forward to win these awards?
Not really. I mean, I think one of the things when it comes to like award season or whatever, the harder this question gets, the better a position we are in as a family. Like, esports is a small world, and it's cool to see it get bigger. Just flat up and down. The bigger the party gets each year is better and better. So, I mean, do I feel it? I mean, sure, I'm gonna get yelled at on Twitter, but like that's how life works, buddy. So not really. I guess I'm just used to swimming upstream at this point.
And everyone that is on those lists, right? They have a lot of people backing them, the people that got them there in the first place. And Lawler, you have been tracking these, someone that has been within the Rocket League scene. When you see names like College Carball that have been heavily involved on these lists, what does that mean for you and the representation of the growth of esports as a whole?
Yeah, I think obviously we tried to adhere to the traditional a little bit. I think a lot of the time that esports had this stigma, and it's finally breaking through that. But a lot of the way in traditional sports, collegiate systems have been kind of that tried and true. It's the path to the top tier. And I think once you kind of get that support in general, it leads to a lot of opportunities, not only for kids for scholarship purposes, to bettering their college career, getting a degree and helping them with the future in their life, but they also get to do it with a hobby, and some even more move on professionally. So I know Rocket League specifically has had the mentality of trying to branch the gap between traditional and non-traditional, and collegiate is the first way of doing that, I honestly believe. So massive round of applause to them. The fact that College Carball has gotten to the level that it has and at the status that it has. So massive round of applause. I can't state that enough.
For me, I think it's infrastructure, period, and
right.
And collegiate is the tried and true way. We've seen other leagues come in and find infrastructure by way of just like straight up money with franchise and stuff. What up, Gary V and COD, right? Like we see that sort of thing as well. So and realistically, I mentioned this last time, is that it's just time overall. My dad gave me a baseball glove. I have friends that have kids, and they're getting little liquid jerseys, right? Like that's
so cool. That's so cool, though.
It's awesome.
I love seeing the little onesies with team logos on the little babies across.
Start them young.
Yeah. But it's great. As we see the industry grow, so do the paths to making it an industry and the awards that come with it. So it's going to be such a wonderful journey to continue tracking it. Now, we would like to once again thank our partners for 2020, without which the Esports Awards would not be possible. Arlington.org, Scuff Gaming, Esports Stadium Arlington, The Koyo Store, Sizzle Creative, Touch of Ginger, Grind Gaming, and eFuse. We also do have another partner making their way into the Esports Awards this year, responsible for the fancy new virtual set that you see before you, courtesy of this partnership with Esports Supply and CGI Live. Now, with the world in a very digital place at the moment and the global crisis that has been going on, we have been working hand in hand with Esports Supply and CGI Live to create an arena worthy of the prestige that the Esports Awards are known for. Now, there will be more to come on this front in our Esports Awards Spotlight show, so make sure that you tune into that for our Pro Spotlight show happening in September. I'm getting the vibe that everyone is ready to unveil some finalists. So let's get to the first one on the docket, and that is the finalist for Esports Journalist of the Year.
The finalists for Esports Journalist of the Year are Ashley Kang, Jarek DeKay Lewis, Richard Lewis, Emily Rand, Adam Fitch, Duncan Thorin Shields, Jacob Wolf, Tyler Fionenfire Erzberger.
The names have been finalized. The ink is to paper. Lawler, what is your initial just raw impressions of the finalists that you see before you?
It's so stacked across the board. All of these people obviously deserving to be here. Obviously, I got to make notable mentions. Richard Lewis is a good buddy of mine. I consider him family. A very memorable speech last year, to say the least, in Richard Lewis fashion. And obviously with Jacob Wolf up there too, guy that you always have to consideration. I know we joked a little bit off camera about his new kitty. So like a little bit of a nod there, but his talent in the writing space and as a journalist far exceeds any cat. So again, very talented list, but it's going to be neck and neck, I think, on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, I go to his Twitter for the reporting, but I stay for the macchiato updates. If you're not familiar in the audience, he had recently stumbled upon, I believe, at the beginning of quarantine, a kitten, and they have been fostering now.
So cute.
To hold it. And it's the most wonderful thread that you will ever experience if you're looking for a way to lift up your spirits. And I think a lot of what people look to these journalists for, though, other than cute cats, is their reporting, their unbiased opinion, bringing the news that everyone is looking towards. How important do you think it is, the development of the journalistic scene within esports and recognizing that prowess through awards such as this?
Yeah, good host knows who to direct the questions to. So yeah, I'm right here in my element, man. Honestly, Gabby, it's such a big deal to have these third party, unaffiliated, unbiased takes here. In the world of esports, everybody is kind of like rubbing shoulders, sometimes good, sometimes bad, and there can be like wavy money lines and stuff. When you come out here and you're just like giving out the news, I look to DeKay, I look to Fion on Fire, and obviously, I got to double down on the Richard Lewis call here. These are the people that come out and kind of do the hard work and get it done. I give an extra shout out to Ashley Kang and Emily Rand to kind of bring in these scenes that might not get coverage otherwise, looking at LCK mainly with Ms. Kang, and like that's another big part of it. I think anytime you're a part of sort of like DIY grassroots type deal, you need some sort of like journalistic oversight almost, and that's my world, and that's why I appreciate those guys. And then of course you need to show people why this stuff is cool, and that's where we look towards like Ashley Kang and Emily Rand and those sort of faces. So I think there's multiple reasons why we need journalistic important people, so to speak, here, and these folks have been crushing it and kicking it out of the park.
You mentioned some of these individuals that are finalists here that maybe haven't grasped the award rather previously. They've maybe gotten second or third, kind of rising in the aspect. But you also have those such as Richard Lewis, Thorin, and Jacob Wolf that have taken away this award in the past. Lawler, what are your thoughts on not just how stacked this category is, but kind of that aspect of having these veterans that are used to coming to the stage for this, as opposed to those that are looking for that opportunity here?
I think that's a fantastic question because obviously we try to give merit to those that have been able to do it before. And those are the ones that usually get the nod. They've been proven and tested and have shown that they can step up to the bill again and again. And I think will always be in consideration for their work. But the fact that you're starting to see new talent and new journalists come in and get that nod and get those votes clearly provides substantial evidence that they are doing a fantastic job in an ever popular and ever competitive space. Like F. just mentioned, there are multiple people that are kind of rubbing shoulders in this space, in the scene, in this demographic. So for other names to make this list, I think is a really big testament to how well they've been doing and providing that insight to other places that we may not normally get to see. So I think it's super important, and even more so I guess just a credit to the work and the effort that they've put in to be in consideration, because again, it's community backing. People are putting their name out there because they feel they do a fantastic job.
Well, whether it's a new face that we see come to the stage this time around or a former winner, you all in the audience do have a say, and voting is currently live. So make sure you go to esportsawards.com to cast your vote for this category. Now, we're going to go ahead and move swiftly into our next award, which is Esports Hardware Provider of the Year.
The finalists for Esports Hardware Provider of the Year are Razer, AMD, Logitech, Intel, NVIDIA, HyperX, Corsair, Asus ROG, Alienware, Scuff Gaming, Elgato, Respawn.
While this award consists of these different products and brands as opposed to people, it is just as important. FDOT, especially now in this quarantine environment where we're looking to technology to keep us all connected, how important do you think is recognizing these potential candidates?
I mean, this is a big deal, you know, in any year, right? You can't hit the ball without a baseball bat. So right now, when it comes to esports, there's so many proverbial baseball bats that you need to even jump into the arena. So it's a big deal with respects to that. Kind of following up into specifically this year. Yeah, we're all just doubling down. So this is the year.
Between some of these companies that we see on this list, Lawler, there are some that are direct competitors with one another, some that might be creating more products during this time. Do you think anybody in particular has an edge over someone else on this finalist list?
Yeah, I think there's a couple you have to really pay a note to. You talk about competitors first. Obviously, AMD and Intel are the first that come to mind. New architecture, you've got, the 3000 series coming out later on for Intel and NVIDIA GPUs and stuff. Like, there's a lot of different types of competition when it comes to the CPU and the GPU hardware that I think AMD is really giving themselves a nod in. I think the first time truly, they might have a leg up here, which is really exciting to see in such a competitive environment. On the other side is someone that streams regularly and stuff. I think what Elgato is doing in their approach to making things more accessible and streamlining things. Shout out to Steggy and the guys over at Elgato and continuing to crush the product that they put out. I think obviously there's been a lot of talk about mixers and trying to get all the physical hardware, and what they've done with the new Wave mic and trying to do it on a software side as well is a really unique and creative approach. So I think everybody's pushing themselves to that new level, especially with how competitive it is. I think more than ever, hardware is important, especially with how much esports is becoming a focus. And obviously, as a pro, you have your specific hardware that you will live and die by. So everybody's been stepping it up lately, but big shouts to Elgato. And then obviously the big hardware guys like Intel, AMD, NVIDIA, you name it.
And there's a lot to consider when looking at this award, because you have certain things that are more applicable to the tournament experience in esports, whereas others you see on camera more because they're kind of in the peripheral genre. And not to shill on Elgato too much, but before quarantine, I had no products from them. And now I have 2 stream decks, 2 lights, 2 cam links I'm looking at.
Becoming a problem, isn't it, Gabby?
Yeah, I see that happening with a lot of people. So I'm curious, Efta, when you're looking at people that are looking at this list and they're trying to cast their vote for who they think deserves it, how much do you think that edge plays into it? The fact that a lot of these voters are working with these products maybe more frequently than they were before, as opposed to consistent products that they've been using for years.
I feel that. Yeah. I think that anything that you are more inundated with is obviously going to draw your eyes here. Obviously, Elgato's everywhere. I absolutely use a cam link for my camera I'm using right now. So I feel that totally. I think that's a big deal, just how much you see things. And with that, it's funny though, because we don't really think about our CPU all that much, but Intel AMD has been such a large conversation. And I'm glad, if I can, I'm going to age myself real quick, but my first computer I ever built was an AMD. It was AMD 64, the first 64-bit, CPU. I was swagging out. And then it's just been Intel for like 20 years. So I have a Ryzen now, and I bought it as a point of pride. Like, absolutely. I have no qualms about that. But it's just cool to see different names involved, because if you know me, I don't like monopolies. Give me some competition. Let's see the technology rise, and that's what we're here for. So, I think things that are front and center are obviously, the shiny lights, right? But, what's under your hood, I think there's a lot of different people with a lot of different approaches to hardware. That's why we have some RGB fancy stuff and some like black streamline nothingness. And it's a little bit for everything. This is probably the one where your votes are the most spread out.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, as I'm looking at a NVIDIA Intel setup here and a complete AMD setup on the opposite side of the room. I have no idea where my
bias there. Nice.
Go. Yeah, completely partial or impartial on this front. And I know some of you in the audience that are looking to vote maybe on different ends of the spectrum with that, but nonetheless, you have the opportunity to do so at esportsawards.com. Votes are currently open, so you can do that right away. But in the meantime, we are going to go to our next award that recognizes those behind the scenes who help facilitate the levels that we see in modern esports.
The finalists for Esports Supporting Agency of the Year in association with Grind Gaming are ESG Law, Hitmarker Jobs, The Story Mob, Esports Engine, Paper Crowns, Prodigy Agency, Character Select Agency.
A lot of diversity in the specialization of our finalists here for Esports Supporting Agency of the Year. I do feel that Lawler and I might be a little biased towards one of the finalists here. And because of that, I'm going to go to you, F. first, as a general reaction to the finalists that we have here for this category.
Yeah, I love that you pointed out, a whole lot of specialization, because that's the really big deal here. This, this category is, you got to be really in the industry to kind of like take this away. But the big picture here is that there's so many different disciplines. Before it was just, we look at player, production, and caster maybe, but as we grow, we need more support systems, more infrastructure. And so we see, the likes of ESG Law out here that are helping players with respect to contract negotiations and visas and international travel and things like that. You've got talent representation to make sure that, people like us are treated, pretty all right. You've got PR firms. There's so many different things that happen outside of the lines, so to speak, off of the rift, that are just as important in order for us to rocket to the moon. And it's a little bit more than just the gamers. So this is an important category for sure.
And it is one of those categories where a lot of the work that has been accomplished by the finalists does happen off camera, outside of what we see as the scene. And Lawler, being that you and I are both part of Character Select Agency that is nominated here for this category and have some experience being someone that works with this type of supporting organization, what is your perspective on what any of the finalists in this category can offer, whether you're talent, player, or otherwise?
Yeah, I think F. really hits the nail on the head. There's a lot of facets that we don't notice about the scene. From those kind of as a standard or as a general consumer of the content, they don't recognize the efforts that go into some of these people that are supporting the people that you see on camera, or the production companies, or everything else that really makes the show come together. So ultimately, I think this is a difficult one for those that are more of a general consumer of the product. But realistically, these are the ones that make the world go round when it comes to esports. Without these guys helping support people like myself, yourself, and everybody else, whether it be the players or otherwise, you may not see that international transfer that F. is talking about, or the ability to have big major international transfers on certain teams, or they basically are there to help support and create an infrastructure. And I know we talked about this a little bit previously, but the concept of also longevity as well is, making sure that the health and the sustainability of people outside of sitting in a chair like we're stuck in quarantine in front of a camera. Being healthy, working on nutrition and that kind of stuff hasn't really been seeing the light of the day, even though it is super important in a typical player or caster's regimen. So hopefully in the future we get a little bit more love in that. But ultimately, these are the people that are the backbone of what we all do. So a massive shout and an important one at that.
I love that. I love that point, Lawler, about kind of longevity and player health. I one of my favorite streams right now is Dr. K, where he does like the mental health stuff on stream. I know a number of teams. I work closely with a team at Alpine Esports. They have a sports psychologist on staff. Like that's a part of what their team does. Last year, I got a chance to tour. We got a chance to tour the complexity performance center, and they work closely with like the Dallas Cowboys to make sure their players like get exercise and stuff. And that, whether it's the next chapter or the chapter that we're currently reading through, that I think is I want to see people like that up here next year for sure.
And I think it's one of those award categories where those that are familiar with it are very excited for it. And if you're not, I encourage you to do some research on it. And while you're at it, you can go ahead and cast your vote for which finalists you think should be taking home the award at esportsawards.com. For now, we're going to be stepping to a quick break, but when we return, we will continue unveiling our industry award finalists.
Shine like
Sometimes you just need a little wonderful in your life. So why not go to a place made for it? Arlington, Texas. It's a city made for fun and excitement and all the things you love to do. And even some things you didn't know you loved until you came here and found them. Come see for yourself why Arlington is a world of wonderful.
Faker, what was that? This is Rocket League!
Done that in the history of Dota!
Every great victory is a story, made up of a beginning, a middle, and an end. The Esports Awards are teaming up with eFuse to help tell more great stories. We're offering $10,000 for one lucky individual on the brink of greatness in esports. Your journey to making your mark on esports starts now. Whether you want to be a pro player, team manager, analyst, community leader, caster, or even a content creator, this fund is open to you, aspiring pro, and you, university applicant, even you, esports entrepreneur, definitely you, grassroots role model, also you, looking to build your first gaming PC. Yes, you, the 40-hour-a-week streamer, but not you, millionaire team owners. You've had enough. So what are you waiting for? Apply now on the Esports Awards website for your chance to take home $10,000.
And your winner.
Welcome back to the third Esports Awards Spotlight Show. My name is Latigris, and finally, I will be joined by some esports royalty, the Fortnite King. I got Booga. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great.
It's such a wonderful time, isn't it? Esports Awards on the horizon. I know that you've been heavily involved, but probably more than people realize, because not only were you on the award show last year accepting so, but moments before that, you were competing your qualifiers for a Fortnite competition backstage. Can you just talk me through what that experience was like for you?
Yeah, I actually remember that. So it was, I believe, squads, and I just got off the flight. We got down here, they brought me back to the room, and I was like, all right, I got to hurry up. I can't miss this qualifier. My team was messaging me. They're like, hey, what's up? Like, where are you? What's up? And I just remember getting back there, setting up all my equipment fast, and then getting straight into the tournament, qualifying. And then right after that, I pretty much put on my tux and went out to the awards.
And when you have so much going on like that, right? You're competing, you're up for these awards. You may not have time to think about bringing those home. But in your first year, you brought home Esports PC Player as well as PC Rookie of the Year. How much did that align with your expectations, especially considering what an exciting time it was for you in general?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I would get the Rookie of the Year, but I honestly didn't think I was getting the Player of the Year whatsoever. There were so many other big names out there I just thought I had no chance against, but I guess I did, and I was really excited.
We all remember Golden Boy shouting out "Booga" as you brought home the ultimate victory, which I'm sure contributed to a lot of the voting. And after that, you have been knee deep in creating content over the past year as well as competition. Do you ever consider focusing specifically on content creation and leaving the competition behind?
Not necessarily. I think whenever there's maybe like a gap period in the competitive scene, so right now there's really not any tournaments going on, I may content create a little bit more and like just stream a lot more in this little gap period because there's pretty much nothing to do competitively wise, so might as well stream and just have a good time.
But there are multiple battle royales now that have competitive scenes. If you don't feel there's enough in one scene, do you ever consider diversifying or switching it up?
I don't think I'll switch up the games anytime soon. I think I'm just a Fortnite main right now, and then once that's gone, I'll move on to the next game.
Well, if you are a Fortnite main, that means you have to have some rivals. Who do you think are the biggest ones that continually challenge your crown?
To be completely honest, when I'm playing, I really don't think of like other players that I gotta compete against. I kind of feel like it's just myself because I'm always trying to get over those little things that I have, like issues in game, and I have to figure out what I'm doing wrong. And once I figure those out, I feel like I'm the only competition in that tournament.
Well, I think that is very strong advice in itself, but you do have that extra layer of experience starting your career so young. Now there are a lot looking to you to try and follow in your footsteps. Is there any additional advice you have to offer for any of those people that want to pursue things in the same greatness that you have?
I think the best piece of advice is just to have your mind set on performing and wanting to improve and just staying focused, not letting your goals get out of your reach. Just always grind the game and just put in all your effort and just try to be the best.
Well, and being the best, that does come with those awards. So my biggest question to you, Booga, where are you keeping all these trophies? The esports awards are on the horizon. You might grab some more.
Yeah, they're actually behind me here. I think you can see them. They're all back there. Those are all my trophies.
I dig the case. Appreciate you putting them on full display for us here today and for stopping by to say some words.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Well, everyone, coming up after the break, we will reveal the industry awards finalists. So don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss it.
Shine like
Welcome back to the Esports Awards third spotlight show. I am joined by the wonderful F. and Lawler, continuing to stay by my side, and we've been keeping things pretty light here today. We've powered through 3 of our award category finalists, and now let's go ahead and continue with Esports Coverage Website of the Year Award in association with Sizzle Creative.
The finalists for Esports Coverage Website of the Year in association with Sizzle Creative are ESPN, Dexerto, Esports Observer, Liquipedia, HLTV, The Score Esports, Invin Global, Esports Insider.
Now, I know I keep talking about how stacked each of these categories are, but it's true every single time, F. I mean, a lot of these are repeating nominees for these finalist positions, as well as a little bit of newness to boot.
Yeah, I mean, every year we come in kind of with fresh eyes in that whatever you did, if you've been here last year, you got to earn your way in this year. And when we look at, ESPN, they've done this a little bit. Welcome to esports, and so it's cool to see them doing it here. But they have a handle on how to provide sports entertainment coverage. We see Dextero, Esports Insider. These are people that you would expect to be on the list for sure.
These are sites that I constantly frequent. Lawler, I mean, when you're talent that's working on it, you're often using these as research purposes, but as a fan to keep up with your favorite scenes as well. What do you think are some of the key qualities in being a potential finalist?
At the end of the day, it feels like these websites now have to do it all. Like there is no more just a specific thing. It feels like they're really broadening what they cover. As someone who does a lot of research and prep work, I think Liquipedia gets a massive shout in the fact that they cover through volunteer work primarily, people that are submitting replays and where the matches went and the brackets and all the formats. And it is a one-stop shop for people that are trying to figure out what's actively going on with some of the matches. So I think they do get a shout. Obviously, there's a lot of other ones on here that are repeat occurrences, whether it be The Score, who has, in my opinion, done a phenomenal job when they won the very first year of the Esports Awards. So again, I think this is a stacked option. There's plenty of different types out there. It just depends on what kind of stance you want to take or what kind of fills that niche for you. So ultimately, again, you said at the beginning, it just feels like it's stacked every single time because rightfully is, as people vote for the best. But it feels like these websites are now starting to broaden their horizons with, yes, we cover the specifics, but we also want to cover more and more, which is just an even bigger workload. And I don't know if they get enough credit for that because that is a ton of work that goes into this. And some of it is just purely volunteer.
And I am very curious to know what the audience thinks on this, whether it's your favorite coverage website for news, results, for gossip. But hey, guess what? You can let us know by going and casting your vote at esportsawards.com/vote. And we got more awards to come. This next award recognizes those companies who have helped mold esports into what we see today. Now, the Esports Commercial Partner of the Year Award allows us to pay homage to the companies that have provided a whole host of support and infrastructure to advance esports into $1 billion industry.
The finalists for Esports Commercial Partner of the Year are Intel, Red Bull, Logitech, BMW, State Farm, MasterCard, Nike, Louis Vuitton, Mountain Dew Game Fuel.
Each of these companies has worked so hard to ingrain themselves within the space of esports and a lot of different approaches too. I'm curious as to your thoughts on what is offered, whether it be a sponsorship and funding or a company that has been actively engaging within the community itself.
I think a big note has to be taken to some of the more non-endemic sponsors, talking about how, we as gamers like to stay up late. We need our energy drinks and stuff like that. But at the same time, I think a company like BMW coming in is a really big deal, not directly associated to the esports side, but picking up partnership with Cloud9, Fnatic, G2, T1, and I think the last one is Fun Plus Phoenix. So the ability to associate and kind of bring in what may be a more general audience to the esports side, just because that branding and association is going to bring in a different draw and a different crowd, and may also incentivize maybe some competitors or something to do the same thing. So I think signings like this are a really big deal.
Yeah, for real. It's not, again, I said this last year, esports isn't begging for relevancy, right? We're here, we're chilling, we don't need any like legitimacy coming out from the outside, but it's an affirmation that the things that you're doing are generally in the right direction, right? So seeing MasterCard, be on this list is pretty sick. Louis Vuitton teaming up with League of Legends and like crafting their trophy and everything was really cool. And now we've opened the doors to see, Gucci isn't on this list, but they're involved with Fnatic, and that's a world where we start to see, like, again, whether it's about the affirmation that all right, you're doing the thing right, we're going to invest in you because we see some like business potential, or also just like growing it up a little bit. Listen, I don't have a Beamer or a Louis bag or anything. DMs are open, but like it's a little bit more my style now that I'm a little bit older than whatever we were rocking at like 12, 13, 14, and to see the whole sort of industry grow up, and thus the investors and the commercial partners grow up as well. I think that's really interesting, and I look towards the future of what we're doing here.
I never did get my hands on any of the Louis Vuitton League of Legends products, but a girl can dream, right? Some incredible companies have gotten into this, involved with sustaining and growing esports over the past 12 months. And you can cast your vote for who you think should be taking home the award at esportsawards.com/vote. Now, our next award recognizes the companies that have created the games that have evolved into some of the largest esports that we have seen in the world today, and continue to refine, refresh, and keep us coming back for more. And your finalists for Esports Publisher of the Year.
The finalists for Esports Publisher of the Year are Riot Games, Valve, EA, Ubisoft, Epic Games, PUBG Corp, Psyonix, 2K, Supercell, Tencent, Activision Blizzard.
Without a lot of these publishers, some of the community's favorite esports scenes would not exist. What do you think of the balance when it comes to a publisher continuing to iterate on games that they've already created, as opposed to bringing new IP and scenes into the overall industry?
Oof. We don't have enough time for me to dive into the answer to that question.
It's a loaded one.
Podcast,
it's a very loaded one.
I'm long-winded already, Gabby. You're not helping me out here. But at the end of the day, it is something to be said, as I drop my pen, the fact that like, we have to invent our football, baseball, cricket, etc., right? And so, all these esports publishers, shout outs to them for actually bringing us the games, because then we can actually play. So first and foremost, let's just lay that groundwork. But there's a lot of other stuff that we need to see that publishers do, right? You look at Riot Games and they have this whole league infrastructure and everything, and Valve doesn't really do that with Counter-Strike, but they do kind of support it in other ways. I look for this year specifically, I'm looking really at Psyonix, obviously a little bit of bias. I host the RLCS, but they went free to play this year, which is a really big step in making your esport like super global, and I'm not going to go so far to say esports should be free to play, but I'm pretty damn close. So that's a really big move. They've changed their format as well to be a little bit more open to newer teams. Again, esports, lowering the barrier of entry, always something I'm going to get behind. So I think that's really cool. PUBG Corp has kind of nailed it by moving into that mobile scene we talked about last time, Gabby. I really like that move here. And the last one I have to shout out is honestly Epic Games, who I have to give it up to Mr. Sweeney's kind of fighting the good fight here on the app stores and everything, trying to like make a more even world for developers, which theoretically has reverberations allowing other publishers to kind of step up to the plate here. So, I mean, Lawler, there's a lot going on with publishers, not just with like games on the field, so to speak, but also off the field.
Yeah, to double down, obviously this is one that you want to kind of not try go too long-winded on because there's so much to cover. Yeah. But I think the best way to describe it is with innovation. You're looking at a lot of these publishers that have been around for a very long time, and some like Riot with the same title in something like League of Legends, where yes, it is at the core the same game, but the graphical updates that they've put out, the multiple patches, different champions and legends and everything else that comes out with that, these guys are trying to do what they can to keep the game exciting and refreshing for those that play it. And that can be said across multiple titles. Obviously, F.I with the backing in, Rocket League for Psyonix, the ability to, yes, at a very fundamental state, it is super simple, but they still try to make it exciting and new each time you sit and play, despite the core concept itself being ball goes in net. So that applies, I think, across the board to multiple titles. Obviously, shout out to Epic Games and what they've done with Fortnite and literally changing the industry as we know it and how they approached it. So again, mobile games you can't take out. Everybody, they're super accessible. You see, after you're just talking 80-some thousand signups for teams in just North America. That is mind-blowing, but it shows the capability that mobile gaming does have. And I think it could be a trend that we see in the future. So ultimately, each of these publishers are learning to how to innovate and do it in a unique approach because there's just so much competition in this space.
I mean, whether you're a player, talent, a tournament organizer, your view on what you look for in a publisher may be different. So make sure to cast your vote on esportsawards.com/vote. Now, I'm excited. We have one more final award to reveal today, and that is Esports Game of the Year. Which title will take home the prestigious honor of being the best game over the past year?
The finalists for Esports Game of the Year in association with the Koyo Store are CS:GO, Fortnite, League of Legends, Dota 2, F1 2019, Rainbow Six Siege, Rocket League, Valorant, Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
I think the Esports Game of the Year in association with the Koyo Store has to be one of the most anticipated categories of the Esports Awards. Looking at the finalists before you, Lawler, who do you think are the front runners or those that people should be keeping their eyes on?
Man, there's so many good games in here, and it really comes down to subjective taste. But I think the one that should probably get a really good nod is actually F1 2019. They obviously had a lot of focus transitioning in the COVID situation to an E for everyone, as well as like a esports kind of vibe with a circuit system that was put online. And you saw many of these racers like Lando Norris not only transition into being someone that competes on an e-circuit, but also into streaming. And it has pushed that narrative ahead much faster than I thought we were going to see. The fact that they are able to go back, he goes and wins and gets on podium, but also continues to stream. So I view it in the sense of if your favorite traditional athletes in the NBA or the NFL also streamed and you could interact with them and ask them questions and get to know them while they practice and train. I mean, imagine back in the day being able to watch, Michael Jordan shoot and throw some hoops, but then you could also Q&A him during that. Like, I think it's a really cool concept that I hope we start to see trend more and more. But F1, the transition to keep that scene thriving, I think it's a massive shout for how they accomplished that on such a short notice.
So sick. Like it's motorsports has always kind of been in between, esports and trad sports, in the sense that like you're there, you're physically doing stuff, but like, have you ever seen an F1? I was going to say controller because it's basically a controller with all the buttons, steering wheel.
Such a gamer, I thought. You're such a gamer.
Till death. But like, dude, it's so insane. So it's cool to kind of see them jump in. Here, you might think that Fortnite has ran out of steam Trust me, it hasn't. And like I said, Epic continuing to iterate. I had this whole idea of like the next version of the internet and going to a Travis Scott concert, which did you guys do that? It was like being in the music video. Like that's
crazy.
It's a huge experience that could only be done in something like Fortnite. So, I mean, it's been around, but it's still kind of doing it. And like I said, bias aside, Rocket League has made really big leaps and bounds. We're talking about esports game of the year. And all these games are really, really strong. But when I look to really big changes in the scene, I look at Valorant being able to come out, bang, make an impact from Riot Games and get huge prize pools, huge talent. We're getting people from Counter-Strike and Overwatch and all these like dedicated scenes. So you got to mention Valorant. You got to mention Rocket League with the way that they've changed their game. And you got to look at F1, I think, with the way that they have kind of like blended that they're the liaison between like the IRL world, so to speak, and here on the digital track. So, I mean, that's exactly where my eyes are this whole time. I love this category.
The finalists that we see are evidence of the constantly evolving nature of esports. Some of these titles that have been around for years, in some cases a decade, others that are just emerging onto the list for the first time. Lawler, when it comes to those evaluating who they should vote for, in your mind, what are some of those key things to keep in mind most? Those that have achieved this consistency or some of those rising scenes that have had such a surge right at the start?
I think it goes a mixture of both. Eventually, it does come down to subjective taste, but realistically speaking, I think the easiest way is entertainment value. What do you find, one, at a very simple core, what is entertaining? How do you think it is presented? When you consume this content, what resonates with you the most? What do you get the most enjoyable out of? Obviously, trying to keep that bias aside, Rocket League is a game that touts as the most exciting esport for the moments that it has at any given moment when it comes to the ability to transition from defense to a goal to whatever it may be. You also talk about how something like Riot Games has multiple titles now in this category, which I think is a massive nod to them and what they've been able to accomplish with something like Valorant, like F. said right out the gate. I mean, you don't get professionals that have been playing an FPS for decades to immediately transition and stick with your game unless you're doing something right. So again, I think you have to view it as your own personal resonance of what do you enjoy to consume, but also think about the steps that they're taking to get to that level as well. League of Legends is one that's been around, like you said, for a decade. How have they managed to stay at the top? What things are they doing to continuously be a title that people still gravitate towards, that dominates in the esports side? So again, a lot of these titles, I think you have to really figure out what I think affects you the most, but also be able to kind of look outside your own perspective and be like, okay, this has been getting a lot of traction. Why is that? And maybe do your homework on it.
It's a very crucial category, and a lot of us kind of have our boxes that we want to tick when casting our votes. Don't forget, you can vote for which title you think should be bringing home the award at esportsawards.com. Last November, we unveiled the recipients of the Lifetime Achievement in Esports Award, and we'll be doing the same in the lead up to our 2020 Esports Awards ceremony. Our first member of the class of 2020 is...
Daigo Umehara is a legendary professional fighting game player with a career spanning over 25 years. He first competed at the age of 14 and still competes to this day. Throughout his illustrious career, Daigo has won multiple tournaments. He also won an incredible 6 EVO titles, dominating the scene, and is regarded as one of the greatest to ever pick up an arcade fight stick. Daigo was the first Japanese professional esports player and became one of esports' first global superstars. His career is fondly remembered for the iconic moments he has given to us, with his legend fueling several books, a manga series, and a statuette in his honor.
Congratulations to Daigo, the first member of the class of 2020 for the Lifetime Achievement in Esports Awards. And hey, a very deserved one at that.
Daigo. I mean, this is such a cool category, obviously, and a cool guy. So straight up, I'm a fan, so I apologize if we just ramble on a little bit. But like, I mean, this guy.
I'm glad you're going first, man.
Dude, yeah, like it is important to crown these people because esports to me particularly, but in general, it's a celebration of a culture. Like, it's been a subculture for so long, and now there's just so many people that are interested in it that it's peeking into the mainstream. I mentioned before that, like, ain't nobody begging for a conversation to be on major television channels. If it comes, we're down. But it's just the result of this culture being built, and that culture is built on pillars like Daigo. Like, you can't talk to somebody into competitive gaming and not bring up, moment 37. Like, that is incredible. You listen to the crowd. It's not pretty. It's not gigantic, but that's what we do is built on moments like that, and people like Daigo. I mean, yeah, lifetime iconic achievement. It's absolutely, it's Daigo, man.
When your nickname is the Beast, I feel like there's a little bit of story behind that. So for a lot of people, I think Daigo represents a really awesome achievement when it comes to just esports in general. When it first started out, it was people bringing their consoles and their CRT TVs and whatever they could to a local area and just playing for fun to get better. And eventually FGC, I think, is a very firm understanding of this with the grassroots community and what Rocket League and all these other, I guess, games are about, is the concept where it is a place where you go to feel like you belong. I mean, many people, especially like myself, were bullied as a kid for being into the gaming scene and anime and stuff like that. And I think Daigo is a clear representation of what it's like to find a place where you belong, where you compete. The fact that he's won titles 6 times at EVO, the fact that he's spanned across multiple games, even though a lot of them are just different iterations of Street Fighter, to be able to continue to compete at such a high level with that innovation we talked about earlier in the show with these games and these developers is a testament to how talented and how hard this guy works. So again, Daigo is not one that you can talk lightly about. He is one that will always be in whisperings of one of the greats. Again, the nickname The Beast was given to him for a reason. The guy is a monster and is over 25 years shown exactly why that is. So I think he encompasses everything that you want and what esports is about, even though it is starting to transcend past the traditional and get into the mainstream audience. He represents to me what esports was all about: the grassroots, hanging out with your buddies, and just playing to get better, to have fun.
It's amazing to think that decades down the line for this award, it will come down to those that have done the most with their time while in industry. But right now, those being awarded are the ones that have set the path and paved the way for all of us to continue growing esports as it is. So got to congratulate all of them. It's official. Voting for the industry awards are now live. So go esportsawards.com/vote. That's where you can have your opinion be heard. And we will be back tomorrow for the continuation of unveiling some finalists, in this case for the Creative Awards. FDOT will be back to join me for that. But that does end our time with Lawler here. Thanks for stopping on by.
Hey, thanks for letting me crash the party, you guys. Absolute blast getting to talk and talk shop about all these wonderful participants.
Yes, thank you so much for all the vibes you brought here to the broadcast. And to everyone in the audience, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to be seeing you real soon. Until then, good morning, afternoon, evening, and good night.
Shine like